Hello everyone, Mike Silverman here. In this video, we will remove the turbocharger from my 2006 Saab 93 2.0T with a capital T, not the lowercase. That would be a smaller turbocharger, which is a different procedure. Already, I've removed the front spoiler shield, which is the plastic part that is underneath the front bumper cover. So that is not in the video, but you can find that on the Saab Workshop Information System website, also called WIS. And before we get into it, I'm just going to show you the turbocharger already out of the car so you can start to understand all the places that it attaches to the car. Yeah, if you want to skip ahead, then you can just get right into the procedure. Otherwise, let's get into it.
So the whole system starts when the exhaust comes into the turbocharger, and this is the part we remove from the exhaust manifold. So exhaust is coming out of the engine, going into the hole there, and that is going to spin the turbine wheels on this section here. So you can probably see down there, there's the wheel. Try to put it under the light better. There it is. So that gets spun by the exhaust gases, and then there's this little flap here that can turn it on or off. That's controlled by a vacuum box, which is controlled by the car's computer. So by spinning this side of the turbine around, it's actually connected on a shaft to another side, the opposite side here, where we can see the other end of the turbine. And that is going to push fresh air into the engine. So fresh air is coming in from here, where we disconnected it from the air box with the mass airflow sensor earlier, or later if we're putting this at the beginning of the video. And that's going to cause fresh air to get sent through this tube, and that will go down through that charged air pipe that we will remove. It's a steel pipe that goes under the car and attaches to the intercooler and eventually goes into the engine. And that is going to be spinning really, really fast, so it needs to be lubricated, and since it's spinning fast, it's going to heat up, so it needs to be cooled down. So that leads us to this center part, which is in between this kind of darker part and the lighter part is the center housing rotation assembly, or CHRA, and that is a replaceable part. So if you were to take this off and then also remove it from here, which is a really big snap ring, you need huge snap ring pliers, which I'm not going to do in this video, but I have done it before. And then you can replace the part with the turbine, because that can eventually go bad. Although, as far as I know, mine was original and almost 200,000 miles before I replaced it. And I only replaced it because I stripped out the bolts for this thing. So anyway, we have to get oil in here. So that comes in from the top, and it's delivered from the engine block to the top here. When we install it, we're going to pre-lubricate it by injecting with a syringe, which is under the laptop right now, but you'll see it. And just to make sure it's lubricated when the engine starts up. Then oil needs to drain out as well. So on the bottom will be the oil drain pipe, which the OEM part is right here. So that would connect to these same bolts there, but mine is not flat anymore, so it wasn't sealing correctly. And I couldn't find the part for sale, so I went with this aftermarket part. It was going to attach like that. So we'll set that up when we're in the car, and oil drain out of that. And then since it's so hot from the high velocity spinning, we need to supply coolant and drain the coolant out. I'm assuming the top one is the supply, because gravity down, but I forgot which one is which. So that's basically it. We got coolant in, coolant out, oil in, oil out, exhaust in, exhaust out, this would go to the catalytic converter and down to the exhaust pipe, and fresh air in and fresh air out. Then all these little tubes are for modulating, I believe, I could be getting this wrong, but I believe that's for modulating different levels of boost. Like if at any given moment there's too much like extra air being forced in, it could let some out. And also, I believe it can use some of that built up air to keep the turbine spinning in case you're temporarily letting off the throttle. But I'm not too up to knowledge on these little pipes as much. But I believe it's for controlling fine adjustments on the turbo at a moment-to-moment basis. So that's a review of the turbo for the Saab 9.3 B207R engine. And hopefully we can understand more when we are taking it in and putting it out, what each part is for, and we won't forget any of the parts before we try to do that.
At this point, WIS says we should remove the heat shield over the steering gear. My car didn't have one, and I'm going to assume this is for removing the catalytic converter later. For these connectors to the catalytic converter oxygen sensors, be really careful that you don't push them too hard, and do not try to pry the red part out with a screwdriver. That's how I broke mine. And they could be pretty stiff if you never opened them before. So what I do is I push the little tabs on the opposite side where it's like two horizontal parallel tabs, and you can stick a small plastic thing in there to push them out. WIS says we're supposed to use Loctite 577 thread sealing compound, and I saw the copper washer, and since WIS didn't mention it, I thought, oh, they use copper washer now, so we don't need to do that. But mine leaked after I put it in, so you probably do want that Loctite 577. And here I'm going to anneal the copper washer by heating it up till it is just a little bit orange. That will do is soften the copper so it can be used as a crush washer. Again, otherwise you can change the washer. Since I recently removed the turbocharger before this, the nuts aren't that tight, but they might be very tight for you because they were really tight the first time I took them out. And WIS warns us not to try to untighten it at an angle because you can break the stud. So make sure that the socket is very straight on when you're taking these off. The heat shield on the back of the catalytic converter should have 3 nuts, I believe, but I've broken them off over the years, so there's only one left for mine. I'll show you them where they should go once the heat shield is out. first time I took these off, they were super rusted. I use an impact wrench, very carefully loosening, tightening, and I also use the MAP gas torch to heat them up a lot. So these will come off easy for me, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were pretty tough on your first time, and be careful to not break the studs. Use a lot of heat if you need to. WIS tells us to cut the pipe, actually, and then later put it back with a exhaust clamp. I think you can just bend it out of the way, though maybe I'm damaging the flex pipe. I'm not really sure. But I bent it out of the way, and so far it has been fine. I'll leave a comment if that changes. I've dropped gaskets in the downpipe before, so be careful here when you're removing this. You could definitely drop the crush washers in there. And now we've got the turbo out, and when we will see how to put it back in the next video. Until then, I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day. Goodbye.